Today I'm making tomato rice. This is a very simple, easy peasy one-pot recipe that you can make for a very quick lunch. This is also something that you'll find across different South Indian households at any given point. So let's just get started. So I've got 4 large red tomatoes here. Just going to put it into the blender. I've just chopped them roughly. So I just pureed 4 tomatoes. I'm going to leave it aside in the same bowl right away and come back to it in a bit. For this recipe, I'm using a thick-bottomed pressure cooker. However, if you don't have access to one, you could use a simple pan as well. So just pour in some oil. You can use any oil that you like. I'm using simple vegetable oil. I've got an inch of cinnamon, which I'm just going to put it in. I've got about 6 to 7 pieces of cloves, another 3 to 4 pieces of cardamom. Just let it fry for a minute. Another teaspoon and a half of cumin seeds. Once the seeds crackle, we'll add the rest of our ingredients. I've got about 6 to 7 slit green chilies. I'm going to add that in as well. Take about a tablespoon of ginger garlic paste and add it to the mixture. Mix it up. I've got about 2 small onions here, chopped finely. I'm going to add them in. I'm going to add some salt to taste. Once the onions are sort of translucent, we'll add the rest of our spice mix. I'm going to add half a teaspoon of turmeric, 2 teaspoons of chili powder. I'm going to add a teaspoon and a half of garam masala, a teaspoon of cumin powder. Mix it up. To this, I'm now going to add the tomato puree. Just mix up the onions and the tomato puree really well. So I've got about 2 cups of rice which I had already washed and soaked for about 20 minutes. You can do the same. I'm using simple basmati, but if you'd like to use an everyday rice, that's also perfectly fine. Now I'm just going to add this into my puree. Just mix it up really well. So I'd use this as a measurement for 2 cups of rice. So I'm going to add exactly 4 cups of water to this. To this, I'm going to add just a handful of coriander leaves. You can also use mint leaves if you like the flavor of that better. So now I'm just going to close up my pressure cooker, put it on a medium flame and wait for 3 whistles for the rice to cook. So after my 3 whistles were done, I've switched off the gas and let it sit for a good 10 to 15 minutes. So now I'm going to open it up and see how it's come. Let's hope it's come good. So that's it. You saw how easy it is to make tomato rice. Just serve it with a bowl of yogurt and you're good to go. Growing up, train journeys was a very special part of summer holidays. 1, because we got to see our grandparents at the end of it. 2, because of food that used to be packed for these 20-hour journeys. Lemon rice was one of those things that would always feature in these journeys, which is why it holds a very special place in my heart because it's so much nostalgia in one dish. Even today, when I'm visiting my parents, I make sure my mum is making some lemon rice for me, at least in one of the meals. It is such an intrinsic part of being South Indian. So today, I'm going to recreate my mother's recipe for you. So let's just get started. Let's just take some oil. I'm using simple vegetable oil. You could also use anything you like. Try not using any olive oil or something really dense like that. Once the oil heats up, add a teaspoon of mustard and just let the mustard seeds crackle. To this, I'm going to add half a pinch of ginger just chopped, To this I'm going to add some asafoetida powder. To this I'm going to also add about 10 to 12 roughly chopped cashews. Mix it up. Instead of cashews, you can also add urad dal or a bit of chana dal as well, but I like cashews, so I'm going with cashews. Now to this, I'm also going to add some broken down red chilies, dried. Add a teaspoon of turmeric. Add some salt to taste. Now to this, I'm going to add some curry leaves. You can switch off the gas now. To this, I'm going to add a bowl of cooked rice. Just mix it in. I've added the juice of about 2 lemons. You can take some and keep adding as and when to get the correct sort of taste that we're looking at. So that's it. Our lemon rice is ready. You see how simple this was? You could use leftover rice, you could serve it with some leftover curry, you could pack it in a lunchbox, or just pair it with a freshly fried fish or pickle or papad and whatever it is, and trust me, you'll have such a wonderful lunch. Today we're making an authentic Malabari Muslim dish called Nahi Choro or ghee rice. To me, Nahi Choro symbolizes the grandeur of everything that is Malabari Muslim food. This is something that you'll find very often at wedding functions, Eid festivals and just family get-togethers in Malabari Muslim households. In my house specifically, this was something that my mum would make when we had guests over. So to start with, take a thick bottomed pan. Add about 2 to 3 teaspoons of ghee or Indian margarine. To this, add 2 sticks of cardamom. I'm adding some cinnamon as well, and I'm adding some cloves as well. Once this is cooked, I'm adding, I've chopped half an inch of ginger. Just add that. I've got about 2 to 3 slit green chilies. Just add that as well. So to this I'm going to add about roughly, there are maybe 15-20 raisins. I'm going to leave a bit extra later for garnishing. To this we're adding some cashew nuts as well. I'm adding some whole, some broken. I'm going to leave a little bit extra for later. So as you can see, our raisins are beginning to puff up into like little golden balls. Now to this I'm going to add some onions. I've chopped in about 3 to 4 small onions. Okay, just let the onions sort of break. We're going to add some salt to this to just speed up the process of cooking the onions. Just give it a good mix. Okay, so our onions are sort of almost done. To this we're going to add some rice. The rice I'm using today is basmati, which is available pretty much anywhere in the world. In Kerala, however, we do not use such thin rice. We like to use a rice which is called Jirakshala rice, but which is only available in Kerala. Give it a good stir. This sort of helps the rice to separate when it's cooking, so you won't have like a sticky rice feeling to it. So just give it a good mix. Now to this I'm going to add, so for every portion of rice, add 2 portions of water. So I'm going to add 2 portions of water here. Okay, 1 more cup of water. Give it a really good mix, and now what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to lift it out of a high flame burner and put it on the lowest burner and just cover it up. It'll take about a good 10 minutes to cook. So leave it on for 10 minutes, but keep coming back and checking it every now and then. So my rice is done. I'm just going to switch it off right now. As you can see, because we've mixed it and stirred it a few times, it's like evenly spread across. I'm just going to take it out. So you remember we had kept out some raisins and cashew nuts to garnish, and that's exactly what we're going to do right now. I'm just taking a little garnish bowl. Take some ghee. Now because raisins and cashews have a different cooking time, we're going to do it separately. We're going to do the raisins first. So I'm just going to take out the raisins and put it on top of the rice, just the raisins and not the ghee. To the same ghee, I'm going to add some cashew nuts. So I'm just going to take out the cashews and put it on top of the rice as well. The best way to eat narichora is with a Kerala papad and some pickle on the side. But if that's hard to come by, you can also just, fry some meat or just do a mutton fry or something like that and just add it to the side. You can also just eat it plain like I'm going to do now because I cannot resist this anymore. It is exactly how it's supposed to be. Today we're making two different kinds of curd rice. Curd rice is something that you'll find in any South Indian home across the world. My house is no different. So now let's make the first kind of curd rice. I've got about a 1.5 inch piece of ginger that I've just chopped and I'm putting it in here. I've got about 4 green chilies. I'm just going to break it into this and put it in here as well. Now I've got these are basically leaves of the lime tree in my house. Instead, you can use just the zest, but use very little if you're using the zest, or if like I've done, I've just taken 4 leaves. Just going to tear them roughly. To this, I'm going to add some yogurt. Just 2 teaspoons for now. We'll add some more later and give it a good mix. Put some more yogurt in this. So I'm just going to empty the whole bowl. Okay, and give it a small, like a reverse turn of sorts. That's it. And just keep it. Now I've got a big bowl of rice here. You can use leftover rice. Try not using really big grained rice because it stands separately from the yogurt and that's never good. So small grained rice is just fine. I normally prefer using leftover rice. Okay, I'm just going to add this in. Now to this I'm going to add our yogurt mix. Give it a good mix. Now to this I'm going to add some salt to taste. The salt is, the only thing we're adding here which is going to be like sort of the decisive maker for the flavor. So I've got about 10 to 12 roughly chopped cashews over here. I'm just going to put them in and mix it. We're not cooking the cashews or anything. If you like raisins, you can just put some raisins in a little bit of butter, let them fluff up and add them as well. But I prefer cashews because this seems light and, nice and fresh and cold. Ideally, make it just before you're serving, but if you have to pre-make it, make sure you cover it really well and put it in the refrigerator till you're serving it. That's it, curd rice number 1 done. So now let's do curd rice number 2. Take a bowl of rice again. To this add some freshly beaten yogurt. Okay. Mix it up. There's a little more yogurt because this needs to be a little watery compared to the earlier one. So just make sure you remember that. Add some salt to taste. Okay. And just leave it for a minute. So I'm taking my little tempering pan. You can use whatever you have at home. Leave it on high flame. To this we're going to add some coconut oil. Let the oil heat up. Please make sure you don't use any butter or any olive oil because that does not go well with the yogurt at all in this recipe. Now our oil is hot, so I'm just going to add a teaspoon and a half of mustard seeds and let them splutter. To this I'm going to put some dried red chilies and a handful of curry leaves. And just switch it off. And give it a good toss. Now, wasn't that easy? Even if you don't like to cook, this really is a no-brainer, simple, blow your mind recipe.